Today I'm going to be presenting an article entitled Sexual Thoughts, Links to Testosterone and Cortisol in Males. But I'm only be talking about the testosterone part of the article because of the relation to the chapter this week. Before I even begin talking about the article, I'm going to give you a brief overview of testosterone and its function in both males and females. As you can see from this chart, in males, visual sexual stimuli increases testosterone, but in females, only sexual thoughts increase testosterone. And when I say visual sexual stimuli, I'm referring to pornographic films or erotic films, anything that it's visual, it's not just in the brain. And for both males and females, masturbation and sexual activity increase testosterone. So the hypothesis of this study was that if sexual thoughts increase testosterone in females, as these same researchers found in their last study, they'll probably increase testosterone in males in this study. Participants for the study were 99 males with a mean age of 20.08 years, and they were mostly taken from a psychology class at the University of Michigan. 81 of them were in their 20s, they were students, and the other 18 of them were people who worked in the department who were up to about 50 years old. So there was a little bit of age difference, but the majority of the participants were around 20 years old. The measures for this study were a health and background questionnaire, a relationships and sexuality questionnaire, and an affect and arousal scale. And these were completed, well, the first two were completed before the study, and the third one was completed before and after the study. And to describe the third one a little more, it's a 32-item questionnaire that has 5 different subscales. And as you can see, there's psychological sexual arousal, autonomic arousal, anxiety, positive affect, and negative affect. And these questions were something like, how worried do you feel, or how happy are you, or how aroused are you? And you had to, the participants had to answer the question on a 7-point Likert scale. So 1 meant they didn't feel it at all, and 7 was intensely feeling that feeling. And the main measure of this study was the ISSE, which is the Imagined Social Situation Exercise. And this exercise was used in the other study and found to be effective. So they used it again, and they had the same conditions, which were the experimental condition, which was sexual, and then the other 3 were control conditions, and they were neutral, stressful, and positive. For the sexual condition, participants were asked to imagine a positive sexual experience with an attractive partner. For the neutral, they were asked to imagine mailing a box at a post office and just interacting with the postman. The stressful condition, they were asked to imagine having a job interview with someone who was very unsympathetic and didn't care. And the positive scenario was to imagine celebrating a job offer with a friend. And they specified friend because they didn't want it to be a positive sexual encounter. The sampling method that they used was saliva samples, and they took the first one while they were filling out the first 3 questionnaires at the beginning, and then they took the second one after they finished the ISSE. They answered open-ended questions about the ISSE so that researchers could know exactly what they imagined, and after they watched a 15-minute travel film, just to let the testosterone show up in their bloodstream. And so the results about the ISSE are that it works, as shown in the last study, which was not really surprising, but the sexual condition, as you can see, had a marked increase in both sexual and autonomic arousal, and that was significant compared to the other groups. However, the testosterone levels in all groups went up slightly, but as you can see in the sexual group, it was pretty minimal and was not significant enough to make any conclusions about testosterone rising with respect to imagined scenarios. Some possible reasons for this are that the second sample was taken only 15 minutes after, and some studies have shown that partnered sexual activity can even elicit a response that takes up to 24 hours to show up in the bloodstream. So there is some variation in when testosterone can show up in the bloodstream. And the other possible reason, which is a possibly more potent reason, is that many of the men, although the researchers did not say how many of the 15 in the sexual condition, but they said most of them, said that they imagined a scenario with a romantic partner, which they didn't tell them to imagine it with someone that they were dating, but most of them tended to. And this could possibly have been a bias in the study for the following reason. So the challenge hypothesis was first talked about by Wingfield in a 1972 paper about birds, but it's been talked about with humans as well, and they have found evidence for it. And it's that males show testosterone sensitivity to challenges regarding many scenarios, but involving sexual arousal as well. And so since these scenarios involved secure mates, people that they already knew, there was no real challenge in the quest. And interestingly enough, I found that for visual sexual stimuli, males showed a marked testosterone increase higher than when they were shown videos about romantic partners. They showed a much bigger increase when they were showed videos of people that they didn't know, or too many partners, or someone coming in that they weren't expecting. So that could be a definite bias in the study. In conclusion, testosterone does not increase in males after simply thinking about sex. But the study could have been improved by perhaps suggesting that they think about a competitive scenario. However, the problem is that the people in the study were heterosexual and homosexual, and it's hard to completely suggest any type of sexual scenario without having some kind of bias. So I'm not sure how they would go about it, but perhaps suggesting a competitive element would help. And yeah, so competitive competition could be an important driving factor in sexually influenced T production.